Welcome everybody to our Erev Purim gathering. Few notations. This day of before Purim is a fast day. Tonight we don't fast like Yom Kippur. The fast starts tomorrow morning by daybreak until tomorrow night when we read the Megillah. And the reason for the fast is called Tanis Esther, the fast of Esther. Not to be confused with the fasting that they did when the decree came out. They fasted 3 days and 3 nights. This fast was the day before Purim, when the haters of the Jews stood up against them to kill them, according to the king's decree, because the king said he will not take back the first letters, the first announcements to kill the Jews. That he can't do, but he gave them permission to stand up for their rights and protect themselves. So they had a lot of fighting on the day before Purim because of the people who were diehards, who wanted to kill the Jews, even though the king sort of took back his decree. But they attacked them and they stood up for their rights and they protected themselves, self-defense, and killed a lot of thousands of their enemies who tried to kill them. So when the Jews go to war, it's like a self-protection war. They have to rely on Hashem, rely on God's help, and they fasted and they prayed. We Jews don't rely on our weapons, we don't rely on our muscles, we don't rely on our great weaponry and strategies. We rely on Hashem's help to help us from our enemies. Therefore they prayed and they fasted the day before, and Hashem helped them, and they celebrated the day after Purim. So that's why tomorrow we fast in memory of those who stood up for their rights and had God's help to overcome the enemies who try to destroy them. And it's for us to remember not only what happened then, but to remember now in our times that it's God who takes care of us. We're in the diaspora and the Golus for almost 2,000 years, going from country to country, from bad decree to bad decree, trying to annihilate us, and we're still around today. And this fast day tomorrow is to remember that we're under God's wings, under His protection. He's the one who's watching over us. Another highlight of tonight and tomorrow, this is the yahrzeit of the great Gaon, the great rabbi of our time, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who passed away almost 30 years ago on Tanis Esther. It was this night, tonight, I remember very vividly. He passed away the night of Tanis Esther, one of the greatest rabbis of present times, of over the past 100 years, one of the greatest rabbis who lived. And he was in Staten Island a lot. He was in the yeshiva Staten Island. He used to come all the time. So sort of part of us to think about him, but he was world famous, still being quoted today for his great ideas and his halacha, psakim, that he decided many difficult decisions for Judaism. People went to him for all kinds of questions and advice. And his day of passing away is kept every year by many people to study Torah, to discuss his greatness, to learn from him. And of course, we quote him many times in all of our shmuz and the lectures that we have. And so it's a time to remember. And we're dedicating our evening tonight to his neshama, to his soul, to his memory. Like we're told, every person, when the anniversary of their death, they are judged by Hashem. And if they have given during that year some good ideas to people, that they learned from him, studied his books, and learned from his great knowledge. Every year his neshama is elevated to higher heights because of the great wonderful things that he left behind him for people to elevate themselves to. And therefore he's elevated every year because of what he left behind, his legacy left behind. Of course, we're very upset about the terrible news we got from overseas today, with so many people on the terrorist attack, some people that died, being wounded. And here he's celebrating Purim about the victory of the righteous over the evil. But still, evil is still very prevalent in the world. A lot of evil people, a lot of people trying to kill innocent people. They don't have a real ideology. Most of them are very unlearned people, don't know exactly what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just sort of getting some problems that they have on their chest out to get it off their sad and corrupt minds that they have to attack other people. It seems to make them feel good, and no real good reason why they're doing it. They're not people of much philosophy or education. A lot of them are drug addicts, and they're just out there to make themselves known and gets attention. Evil people doing evil things still in the world today. And of course, we'll talk about our shmooze tonight, about this, what we're discussing. And we're trying to bring goodness into the world, and honest and true philosophies and ideas, which is through the Torah itself. And these people are lacking the Torah, and they're lacking just plain menschlichkeit, this civil kind of actions that they should be conducting themselves. So we're saddened by hearing such terrible news about people being killed like that for no reason. Just to go over quickly some of the laws of Purim. I'm sure all of you know them already. Just to remind you that tomorrow night every person should listen to the Megillah, men, women, and children, or children that are old enough to understand. And those who are not old enough to understand should be watched carefully not to make a lot of noise in the shul. People should be able to hear the Megillah read. And the next day of Purim, everybody again has to hear the Megillah again. Men, women, and children, sometime during the day. So most people do it in the morning, but it could be at any time of the day until sundown on Thursday. We must hear the Megillah again. Again, men, women, and children must hear the Megillah again. I hope you all attend our Purim feast in Lakewood on Thursday afternoon, in the evening, and the Megillah will be read over there also. For those who didn't hear it yet, I think it's 6 o'clock, a Megillah reading right before the great feast that we expect to have. I hope to see you all there. We'll be able to dance together, make l'chaim together, and celebrate Purim in a wonderful way, in a great way. Every person should give at least 2 donations to poor people on Purim during the daytime. The more tzedakah, charity is given, the better, but at least to 2 poor people, money should be given on Purim. At least a few dollars to each person. Of course, the more we give, the better it is. Like I say every year, in case you don't know any poor people, I would take the money. I have many poor people to give out on Purim. I would never have enough money to give out. So many people are needy, and if you don't have your own people to give it to, you could, before you leave, give it up here, and I would give it out on Purim, and you'll have that mitzvah. Also, we must give mishlach manot, 2 edible portions of food to at least 1 person. The matas v'yan of charity to 2 people. At least 1 person must receive 2 edible objects from all of us to somebody else. either a portion of meat or fish or cake or a drink, a wine, whatever it is. Something can't be just a peanut and a raisin. It has to be something a little bit more important than something the person will be happy to get, enjoy to eat. To be ready-made food. It can't be things they have to cook or prepare. It has to be two prepared foods we must give to at least one person. Everybody must keep that mitzvah, men, women, and children, to have the mitzvahs of charity and shlach manas on Purim. And we're obligated to have a great Purim feast on Purim and enjoy a festive dinner during Purim on the day. Tomorrow night, a little bit, but on the Purim day itself, there has to be a very festive, enjoyable feast that we have to have. Of course, it should be people who eat meat should have meat and have a few different courses of make it into a very festive kind of a dinner to have in Purim. So, here we come. We're talking about Purim. I gave it the title that God declared war against Amalek, the great-grandfather of Haman. Are we Jews involved in that war? Haman was not the beginning of the evil that his family did to the Jews. He was descendant of other notorious grandparents. His great-great-great-parent was Esav, Harasha, the brother of Yaakov. Two of them born together, twins. And Esav ended up to be a big enemy of Yaakov. In general, in particular, he had a grandson by the name of Amalek, Esav had, and Amalek was an arch enemy of the Jewish people from the very beginning. And the first time that we meet Amalek in the Torah is when the Jews left Egypt. They were in the desert. Vayova Amalek, first one, the glossary sheet. Vayilochem im Yisrael. Amalek came and he made war, went to war against the Jewish people. First of all the nations, everybody was frightened out of their skin to start up with the Jewish people after all of the miracles that God showed in Egypt, all the 10 plagues, killing the firstborn, splitting of the Red Sea. They were all frightened to start up with the Jewish people. But Amalek brazenly stepped up and started fighting against the Jewish people. And we're told later on that we have to remember what Amalek did to us. Asher karcha baderech, number 2, kar means cold. He cooled you off. What does it mean he cooled you off? And number 3, that Rashi brings an example of a hot bathtub that's burning hot, boiling hot, and nobody dares to jump into it, a pool. Let's say boiling a pool. And this was overheated. Everybody's very afraid to jump in, to burn out their skin. And this Meshuggah went, he jumped in, and he got burned, but he made it cooler for everybody else. It's not quite as hot anymore since he went with his body. So we're given this example of what happened to Amalek to attack the Jewish people. They were so hot. That means everybody's afraid to start up with them. And Amalek came, and even they were defeated in the war, but they made it easier, not so bad. You see, Amalek started up with them, so maybe it's not so terrible, maybe not so great, maybe it's not so scary. And God said, Milchama al Hashem Amalek b'dar dar, number 4. Since then, God has a war, is at war with Amalek in every generation. From that time on, until Mashiach comes, God has a war against Amalek in every generation. Now let's try to understand a little deeper what we're talking about over here. It wasn't just a physical war against the Jewish people. God says, Emche, I will erase the name of Amalek. And says, you should erase the name of Amalek, the Jewish people. God is having war with Amalek. He wants to erase them from the face of the earth. And we're his soldiers to do that. We have a mitzvah to erase Amalek. Amalek is against us. They're trying to destroy us. We're trying to destroy them. They're trying to destroy us. We have a head-on war with Amalek. What is this war? It's not just a physical war. This war is a philosophical war that the Jewish people are fighting with Amalek in every generation. The philosophical war is that Amalek's philosophy is, of course there's a God. They don't believe in evolution. That's stupid, evolution. Even Amalek didn't believe in evolution. They knew there was a God in the world. It was not created by itself. The world is too full of wisdom to become by itself, to evolve by itself. That's ridiculous. What they did believe is that God created the world, definitely, with full of wisdom and full of wonderful things that we have. And he wants us to enjoy ourselves. Forget about worrying about anything but yourself. Enjoy yourself. Live it up. Nobody cares what you're doing. God doesn't care what you're doing. He just created the world for you to create it or destroy it. It's up to you, man. You want to live decently and have a good life? No. So live, have a good life. You don't want to, you want to destroy it? Destroy it, whatever. I'm leaving it up to you. There's no checks and balances. Whatever a person wants to do, it's up to him, and nobody cares, and God doesn't care. There's no punishment, there's no reward. It's just up to the people for them to live their life the way they feel, and nobody's going to bother them. They'll bother themselves, whatever it is. Destroy themselves, whatever. Therefore, you don't have to worry about God. He's not in our life. He doesn't care about us. He just went on vacation. He created the world, and he left the world. The Jewish people, on the other hand, naturally, totally negate this idea, this philosophy, that on the contrary, God is very, very involved in this world. He watches everything that we do. He watches everything that we think. He watches everything that we say. And we have to live up to what he expects from us. If the non-Jewish people have to live with the 7 Noahide laws, they might not be Jewish, but they have to have a religion of Noahide laws, of decency. 7 laws, not to kill, not to steal, and so on. They have the 7 Noahide laws they have to live by. And God will take them to task if they don't keep those laws. He knows exactly what they're doing. He's watching them. The Jewish people have 613 laws, all the Torah to keep. And God's keeping tabs on every Jewish person. Every action that he does, every thought that he has, every word that he says, we are being watched very carefully. And everything that we're doing is being written down in the book, so to speak, but in our terms, God's book, and he doesn't write, and he remembers everything. Everything that we do is either a mitzvah, or are we doing the right thing, or are we doing the wrong thing? And we believe that God rewards and He punishes. If we do the right thing, He gives us a reward. If we do the wrong thing, we get punished for it. In this world, the world to come, and this is the big philosophical war going on between Amalek and his followers and the Jewish people. And God says that I have this war going on in every generation until Mashiach comes, until this idea will be destroyed, eradicated, forgotten. There's wars going on. Like we know today it's going on, and it was always going on ever since the creation of the world. Evil against the humanity, and evil against the Jewish people. Because God has a relationship with everybody in the world, but a special relationship with the Jewish people, a special havivus, a special love for the Jewish people. He has a very close relationship with us, even though He relates to the whole world, but with us it's a special one, outstanding, different from everybody else. We are His children. And this is what Amalek, when they attacked the Jewish people, it was not only attacking their bodies, physical attacking, they were attacking the philosophy, the whole basis of the world. We don't want the Jewish people around because they're preaching against what we believe in, Amalek said. We don't want people to think that the God has to do with the world. We want to be free. We don't want a guilty conscience. We don't want to feel that we have to do the right thing, the wrong thing. Whatever you feel like is right, there's nothing that's wrong. You do what you feel like, and it's okay. And the Jewish people are giving a bad, in their underline, idea to the world, and they're disturbing our peace, and they think that they're the chosen people, special relationship. There's no relationship. And that's what they were attacking. Not the Jewish people as a physical nation, but Jewish people as a philosophy, as this is something that the Jews believe in, and we want to eradicate and get rid of the Jews because they are giving bad ideas to the world. And when we talk about the pool, the burning water in the pool, it was more than just a person jumping in and making it easy for other people to attack the Jewish people. What it really meant was that when the Jews went out of Egypt, the whole world saw all the miracles that God made for them. They saw that God is connected to the world, that He has His nation, and He makes miracles, and He punishes the wicked. The Mitzrayim, the Egyptians who were wicked, got punished. The Jews who were righteous got rewarded. Everybody saw that. Everybody believed in it. And they were very strongly impressed and imbued by the facts going on in the world. And by Amalek attacking them, what does it mean? They cooled off the pool. They cooled off this whole idea. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's not what we think. Maybe God doesn't have such a... Look at that. Amalek attacked the Jewish people. They're not afraid of them. So they watered down and cooled off. They made you cool. This idea of God being connected to the world, and we have to be responsible for our actions and act the way God wants us to, according to the laws of the Torah. And He watches and He knows and He rewards and He punishes. That got watered down. Amalek attacking, it's not, maybe it's not so simple. Amalek can do it once he sees somebody else doing it. Somebody else doesn't believe in it, so it makes it easy for other people to get also cooled off and down into it so much. And that was the great, terrible action of Amalek. And God says, I will erase them from the world. Emche. In one place it says, I will. And the other place says, Timche, you should erase them, kill out Amalek, get rid of them, get out of the world, because they are destroying the world. Destroying the world. They're out to get us. They want to destroy us. Haman, Number 7, his decree was lahashmid, to destroy, to kill, to eradicate all the Jews, from young to old, children and women. Timche, he wanted to destroy the Jews. He's out to get us. It's a do or die situation. If they get us, they kill us physically and spiritually. And there's no God in the world. We got to kill them because we got to make sure that God comes to the world and he's here and he's going to have his place here. We're going to fear him and we're going to listen to him. There's a big difference between our fight against them and their fight against us. Big difference. Their fight against us is complete. There's no way out. Right? Hitler naturally came from Amalek, the Haman of our time. No matter how Jewish people would want to act, even if they wanted to become a Christian, he wouldn't let them live. If they had any ancestors Jewish, you got to get rid of the Jews. That was it. That's a Haman. They had to get rid of them, burn them, get rid of the bodies, get rid of the Jewish people. We don't have that philosophy. We don't have that rule. If Amalek will accept the 7 Noahide laws, then we'd have no mitzvah to get rid of them. Simply 7 laws. Be mentioned. Be civil. Be reasonable. Keep the 7 laws. Don't kill, don't steal, 7 laws. If they accept it upon themselves, then we don't have any mitzvah to destroy them. We should erase the name of Amalek from the earth, but if they become civilized and become fearing God to the extent of the 7 Noahide laws, we don't have any mitzvah. We can live with them nicely. Even we accept people, converts from Amalek. Imagine that. Amalek, he wants to become, there were Amalekim. We study the prophets. The people from Amalek became Jewish people, regular Jewish people, accepted the Jewish nation. Tried to do that by Hitler, by Haman. He would, no. We got to kill you. It's the only way to do it. You got to kill out the Jews. There's no way out. If you're a Jew, that's it. So that's a big difference between our ridding of Amalek, between Amalek getting rid of the Jewish people. But this fight is going on from generation to generation, and it's not different in our times. The people trying to destroy the Jews, we know who they are. And of course now the politicians are all talking about, how to handle some of our great enemies. The president making deals with them, and some of the people coming up now want to be elected, saying, no, that deal is terrible, we get rid of it, we have to... this discussion is going on now, and it will go on until Mashiach comes. The great evil people of the world are always here, always will be, until Mashiach comes. And this ongoing fight, God says, I'm fighting with imagine that. God's like war with Amalek for every generation. And we are the God's soldiers. He's the general, and he's the king, and we have to fight this war. How do we fight this war? How do we fight this war? Today, we can't say, well, let's fight Amalek. We don't know who's Amalek today. We don't know what Amalek is. The fighting today is the philosophy we have to fight. The philosophy of Amalek. How do we show that God's in this world? How do we bring him into the world? By doing his ratzon, by doing his will, to show that we accept his kingdom, his laws, his Torah. That's how we bring him to the world. That's more important than going killing Amalekim in the world. We have to ourselves, as Jews, show that we're God's soldiers. We're not going to the battlefield right now, which they would be around. The Jews went to the battlefield to fight Amalek. King Saul, we just read about it in Shabbos, this past Shabbos. King Saul went to fight Amalek in the battlefield. But that's an easy one, so to speak, relatively speaking. To beat Amalek in the battlefield is one thing, but to beat him philosophically, to show that we accept God's kingdom and his laws, that's what we have to do whether we know Amalek or don't know him, we know what they stand for, and we have to stand for what we're standing for. Stand up to God's commandments and keep his laws and keep his Torah. That's what Purim is all about. Purim is all about that God's special love, connection, concern for the Jewish people, that he's with us. He's not disconnected. He's very connected. Even we're in Galus, he's connected. He's watched over the Jewish people. We're here for 2,000 years. We've been out of our homeland, and we're still around. We're still existing. No other nation in the world ever came close to that. Every nation that was sent to the Galus out of their land, they disappeared. The Romans, the Greeks, the Babylonians, go through history, they're not around anymore, because once they went off their land, they have nothing to keep them together. The Jewish people went off their land 2,000 years, we're still around. Why? Because we have the Torah. The Torah is what keeps us going, because we learned the Torah, we kept the Torah, we kept God close to us, even though it's not the best circumstances that we'd like to have, being in our holy land with the holy temple being built. But secondary to that is that we're in Galus with Hashem. We study Torah. We still pray to him. We still do his commandments. We bring God into our life. He's part of us. He's here. He's not disconnected. We're against the whole philosophy of Amalek. He's not disconnected. He's with us. He's watching. He knows. He gives reward. He punishes for our good, naturally. He punishes for the goodness of the Jewish people. Because of his love to us, he punishes. But this is what we have to really, the big joy of Purim. Purim is that God's with us at all times. He never lets us go. He might hide himself from we don't see him as with open miracles like we used to see him so far, which will come speedily in our time. We'll open up the miracle window and we'll see open miracles. But in the meantime, he's watching over us. We're still here. We're alive. And this is the big joy and the happiness of Purim. If we really want to get to the nitty-gritty of the point of Purim, the point is Hashem is with us no matter what. So we didn't finish our whole Purim sheet, but we'll continue next time. Right now, we're ready for some questions.
Is a man allowed to dress up like a lady or a lady like a man? On Purim.
Well, the answer is obvious because Jews do so. It's not recommended, but we can't say a person is transgressing the law because they're doing it for the Simcha of Purim, not to fool anybody. The Torah doesn't want a man to dress like a man, and therefore they get mixed up with each other. So that's the main purpose of the Torah forbidding a man to dress like a woman like a man. But on Purim, they're not doing it for that purpose, doing it for Simcha, to make things funny and make things lebedik and happy. So we're not forbidden to dress up that way, but it's not recommended. But if we see somebody doing it, we don't have to tell them you're doing the wrong thing.
Okay, online question. Rabbi Mintz just mentioned about the coming of Mashiach. What is Mashiach? What is the Messiah?
For Mashiach, am I coming through this thing turned red by it's red by the way, it's not green. Mashiach means the anointed one. The anointed one. When a king became into power by the Jewish people, and which was copied by the non-Jewish people, they pour a certain type of oil on his head and bring it down to his face, and that means Mashiach, anointed. Once anointed to be a king, so then he has that holiness of being a king of the Jewish people. That shemen, the reason why he's anointed with that oil is because oil is a sign of light. Oil is a thing that they used to use a lot, today not so much, but you use a wick in the oil and it makes a light, and that shows a king has to be a king over the Jewish people. Studying the Torah is called light, Torah Oorah. He has to be a king of light, of Torah, in order to be a light to the Jewish nation, that he's the leader. So he's anointed with that shemen. So we say Mashiach, he will be the king of the Jewish people and recognized by the whole world to be God's emissary to the world, and therefore he will be anointed with the Shemen HaMishcha, the special oil the kings are anointed with. He will be the king, and he will be recognized by the whole world as the person, as the authority to know what's right and what's wrong. So that's called Mashiach. The anointed one means the king who will be the king of the Jewish people and the world.
Oh, okay, now it works. What's so special about Matanas Le'Avyonim? Because we have a mitzvah to give tzedakah every day. What's so special about that we have to do that on Purim?
Well, every day we might give, we might not give. But in Purim we have to give to Avyonim, and the reason being shown to show that God is with us. Like we're Lavyanim, we want to Golos when we go into the diaspora. We're like poor people. We're not rich when we're in our land, and we are with our Beis Hamikdash, the holy temple, with our king. That's considered that we're rich. We go into Golos, it's like we're poor. The Jewish people are not where they should be, and they're roaming around different countries and being persecuted. It's like they're poor, and God takes care of us, watches over us. He's a tzedakah for us. That's what happened in Purim. The Jewish people sinned. That's why the whole story of Purim came about. And they did tshuva afterwards, and God helped them. He saved them, made a great miracle. So it's like the rich man helping out the poor man. For us to remember that we have to, like I said before, remember God's always with us. Even we might be not the way we should be. We're not acting totally the way Jews should act. But God's still with us. He takes care of the poor people, takes care of the Jewish people. In Golos, they're considered like poor people. So we have to remember that on Purim especially.
Second question, is one allowed to use fireworks on Purim? Fireworks.
Use fireworks?
Real
fireworks?
Yeah.
There's party snappers with fireworks.
I think he's talking about fireworks.
Fireworks? I mean, you have to be careful of fireworks. I mean, if allowed to, I mean, you have to. If it's dangerous, you can't use it any time. If it's dangerous, you have to. But are you allowed to use it not on Purim? I mean, it's not a Purim thing. If you're celebrating something and you think fireworks might help things along, okay. But you have to make sure that the person who's doing it knows what he's doing. It's very dangerous, fireworks. So I don't want to say, great fireworks on Purim. Be very careful.
When I hear something in the online question, when I see something in the media, a negative story about Jewish communities, either here or in Israel, am I not allowed to believe the story, even if the facts seem to be true?
About communities, well, there's a very big general rule with the media, which I mentioned many times before. Don't trust the media, and don't trust the newspapers, and don't trust the announcement on TV and radio, because they are there to make a buck and to get people to read and to listen to what they're saying. So they capitalize on the negative, and they say things that they didn't really check out to be true. They're not sure, and so many times they make mistakes. My own knowledge from those stories that I happen to be in on and know about them and read them in the paper, how they are bent out of the truth, exaggerated, that from there I see, when I see any other article, I know don't take it for face value. The person writing the article, they're ready to sell their parents to write a good article and get a lot of attention. That's how they make their money and get their fame. So when you read an article defaming somebody or some place or some organization, don't jump to conclusions that it's true, because they put it in the media at first before a person has a chance to explain themselves, and they never come back afterwards, usually, and say, well, we made a mistake, and the person says so-and-so. They want to make big news, and that's how they sell their product. So it's very dangerous to take everything face value when you read newspapers or hear news bulletins. be very careful to make sure that they know what they're talking about, which we usually can't make sure. So we can't accept it for face value. Maybe, maybe not, probably not. For sure not as bad as I said it, that's for sure not. Is it true at all? May not be true at all either. So we have to be very careful not to take for face value what we read and what we see in the media.
I have a question about the Amalek.
Yes.
The story is that Shaul Amalek was fighting the Amalek, and he destroyed the Amalek, but he left alive the best livestock, the cows, the lamb, the best one. And because he left the livestock alive, Shaul lost his job. Shmuel, the prophet, told him, you're going to lose your kingdom, you're not going to be the king no more.
Right.
And I'm wondering, what is the significant leaving livestock alive?
Okay. Well, the main thing is because he didn't listen. More than what he didn't listen to. But he didn't listen to the Navi, the prophet who's saying the name of Hashem, that do what you're supposed to do. If you don't listen to him, well then next time something more significant will come, but don't listen to him. Once you have a break in the dike, and you don't listen to the Navi, you don't do what you're supposed to do, that's how things start off. For little things get worse. It's like you have a little cut in your finger. If you don't take care of it, it gets infected. If you don't take care of it, the whole arm gets infected. After a while, a person can die from it. Even though it started from nothing, from a nothing. That's God shows us that sickness starts from a very petty, small source, but it can develop into something very serious. And when once a Navi doesn't listen to Hashem, a person doesn't listen to the Navi, so if he doesn't listen now to something small, then next time a little bit more, no, that's not so bad, not so bad, until it comes to who knows what. That's number one. The main thing is not the commandment, the main is the commander, the one who's commanding. He has to be reckoned with and taken seriously. And once you start not taking him seriously totally, then you're breaking down the whole feeling of listening. Number two, that we said before that God told them to destroy Amalek, that we wanted them to be out of the picture, to show how evil they are, that we don't want anything left of them unless, like I say, unless they accept the 7 laws. Then they could live and animals could live. But they didn't want to. They didn't want to stay with their philosophy against the Jews, and they wanted to destroy the Jews and Jews' philosophy and destroy God in the world. They were showing they're very wicked people. They're out to get the Jews, out to get God out of the world. So you have to show how terrible. It's like somebody who you had bed bugs today. You had bed bugs. What do? You got to get rid of the bed and the clothing and the walls, and to get rid of them, you got to go out of your way to get everything that's close to them. They want to get Amalek to show that these people are wicked, they're bad, and even though they know they might be killed, they still don't want to repent. They just want to keep their wicked ways and their philosophy in the world. And God says, get rid of them, get out of the way, and show that they don't belong here. They're misfits for humanity. And like these people today, killing people, that's what Amalek is, killing people and attacking people, and just to give their shita, their philosophy to the world, they wouldn't stop at anything. And that's what they have to be stopped. It's do or die, like I said before. They are going to take over the world, or we'll take over the world in the right way, and they'll take over the world in the wicked way. And that's why God wanted to totally be forgotten out of the world.
Yeah.
We have a hand up over here.
We have a few people waiting.
Oh, okay.
How can we go about intoxicating ourselves on Purim in a fashion where we utilize the intoxication for our best spiritual benefit?
I don't know if I understand the question quite. Could you explain your question, please?
How do we utilize the intoxication of Purim in a fashion where the intoxication is positive for our spiritual growth? How do we go about it? How
Not why, but how to do it.
Yeah, how?
Oh, well, we know that sometimes we're a little bit inhibited in our way that we show our emotions. We're inhibited very much in our emotions, and we don't bring out emotions in a strong way usually, because as especially Jewish people, we're very contained, and we're very, very subdued in a way. We don't show off, and so it comes to Purim. When you drink, your inhibitions are removed to a great extent, and you're able to bring out your emotions. So we want to show our happiness on Purim, and we want to show we dance and we sing and we so friendly with everybody else and pat them on the back, so we take away these inhibitions that we have, and bring out our happy emotions within us, and show that it's a very happy day, and thank Hashem in a way that we don't thank Him when we're not intoxicated at all, because we're inhibited. But that's what alcohol does for a person, to bring out his happiness without anything holding him back. So if we do it in that way, that's a good thing. It's a mitzvah. If a person doesn't do it that way, then he shouldn't get intoxicated. He shouldn't drink, because if he brings a negative in the person, then it's not a. The law of singing on Purim is not an obligation. If we don't do it, we're not punished for not doing it. It's a nice thing to do if we know how to do it. If we don't do it, doesn't bring out the best in us, then we should not get involved with it.
How long beforehand should you start practicing?
Not at all. Only on Purim itself. You don't practice them before. No practice.
Okay, we have an online question from Yisrael Schwartz.
Oh, so sure.
He wants to know if we're supposed to eradicate the memory of Amalek. How could we be expected to eradicate the memory or any vestige of Amalek if the name Amalek is mentioned several times in the Torah, which is eternal?
Oh, I always have the question too. Yisrael, I haven't asked the question. The name means not the word Amalek. It means the name means their fame and greatness. We put them down. By mentioning the name in the Torah, we're not making them great, we're making them smaller. We're making them, Timcha, get rid of them. They're bad, they're wicked. So that means we eradicate their fame or their importance. We negate their importance and put down their importance, and that's what it means, the name. Name is fame. The word shame in the Torah means fame. When they use the word name. That's the person known for what he is. So that's what you call the name. But if they're known what they are as a wickedness, we eradicate the Amalek. That's what it means. Eradicate their any importance of that they have, any greatness that they may have in the eyes of people. We put it down to show that they're not important, they're not great, they're wicked, and we want to erase any feeling of greatness people might have to them. That's mean Tzimcha Amalek.
How does someone become worthy of Mashiach, and what happens to the people who aren't worthy?
What's the second half of the question?
And what happens to the people who aren't worthy?
We're not ready?
Not worthy.
Not worthy. Well, how does one become worthy of Mashiach? Worthy of Mashiach means that Torah keeps the laws of the Torah. That's what God tells us, all the prophets tell us. If we'll keep the laws of the Torah, then we'll be worthy of Mashiach coming. He will come someday anyway. At the end of, we mentioned, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, that at a certain time, at the end of the 6,000 years, God's going to come anyway, for sure. Mashiach's going to come with God. But he could come before if the Jewish people would keep the laws of the Torah like they should. They would hurry up his coming. People are not worthy. Well, they're all different levels of people not worthy. Some people might not be that righteous, but they keep a lot of the laws of the Torah. They could be worthy, not as great, righteous, pious people, not as much, but a certain amount. And Mashiach comes, then they'll recognize the truth. Some people who are wicked will be punished, and through the punishment, they'll be able to make themselves worthy of accepting Mashiach through punishment. So it depends on the person. We can't. It's not a. We talk in generalities. We can't look at one person and say, well, that person, what are they? Only God knows what they are, if they're worthy or not worthy. But generally speaking, by studying Torah and keeping the Torah that makes us worthy to be God's people, and He should come be close to us and reveal Himself to us. People who are not worthy, they have to get on the bandwagon, start working on it, becoming worthy, and studying Torah and keeping the Torah.
Rabbi, back
Yes.
back to Shaul and Amalek.
Yes.
Besides the livestock, didn't he not kill Agag, the king?
Shaul did not kill, no.
No, he did not.
No.
And that one day he got a woman pregnant who was Haman was a descendant, like a grandson of Agag, no?
Right, right.
It is true, no?
That's Chazal tell us. That was the only person left, and because of that, the whole Amalek came out again. He was the only one left. They would have been killed. They would have been the end of them. But you're right. But just a small amount of time could cause such a great tragedy.
Hi, when and why did the tradition of dressing up start for Purim?
Who's asking? I can't see you. Oh,
When and
yeah.
why did the tradition of dressing up start for Purim?
Uncle Sam, yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, the reason why we dress up on Purim, the few reasons why, the main reason is because the miracle of Purim was different than other miracles. We've discussed in past years on Purim that such thing as a nice nigla and a nice nister. Such thing as an open miracle and a hidden miracle. Open miracle is 10 plagues, water turning to blood, Red Sea splitting. It's an open miracle. Nobody can dispute it. You see it, that's a miracle. Hidden miracles are that being able to see, well, that's nature. Nature. See, be able to hear, that's nature. God helping the Jewish people in Purim, that's nature. It happened to be that she became the queen, Esther, and everything. You can answer it as if natural causes. That's called a hidden miracle. People can hide behind it and say, well, it's not really from God, it's just nature. So as we as Jews naturally believe that there's no such thing as nature. Nature is God's creation. They're able to see. God gave us the power to see. And everything in the world God created, every molecule in the world God created. So comes to the nace of Purim, it was a hidden miracle. It wasn't open. It wasn't Red Sea splitting or water turning to blood. It was like a whole story. Esther became the queen, and Mordechai heard the people overheard them talking, and she told the king, and they rewarded Mordechai, and then they killed Haman. So it was a hidden miracle. It wasn't an open miracle. So we dress up in Purim to show that we don't see the real person. God's hiding, just like God's hiding Himself. God said, I'm hiding myself from you. I'm watching you from the back. Like we said, like a mother walking with the child. My Rebbe used to give an example of a mother walking with a child, and the child gets very cranky, and he won't move. And he wants to stand on the ledge over there, and he won't move and starts crying. So, okay, goodbye, I'm leaving you. She walks away, and she looks around the corner, around the building, to make sure nothing's happening to him. She makes as if she's running away from him, but she keeps her eye on it the whole time. Nothing should happen to him. Hashem puts us into Golus as if He's hiding Himself, but He's watching. He makes sure that we're existing, that we don't not destroyed by the nations of the world. He's hiding Himself as if He doesn't see, but He sees very much everything that's going on. So we dress up on Purim to show that who's that behind that costume. We don't know who, somebody there, but we can't tell really what he is, but he's there. That's to remember that God's there. We don't see Him, but He's really there. So that started probably right after the first Purim that could have happened. Another reason is, which certainly happened even before, at the time of Purim itself, that it says in the Megillah, a lot of the non-Jews dressed up like Jews, because they were afraid of the whole what happened to Haman, and all enemies of the Jews were being killed out. So they were afraid, so they dressed up like Jews. Know that people should think they're Jews. Mesyadim. So therefore we dress up to show the miracle that the whole thing changed around to such an extent that the Goyim were trying to look like Jews. So therefore we masquerade and put on costumes to remember that miracle also. So that happens right. The Megillah says that they did that. So the members of that thing, we dress up in a masquerade. Those two reasons.
Okay. We have an online question. I want to influence my friends to become more religious. When am I allowed to bend halacha for the sake of making it easier for them?
Friends are to bend halacha for themselves or for the other person? For the other person.
The other person. To make it easier for the other person.
Well, I don't think it's bending halacha. I don't mean exactly. If you tell somebody who smokes 20 cigarettes in Shabbos and tell him to smoke 19, so that's called bending halacha. You get him to do something more than he did before. That's not bending halacha. Do something for Shabbos. They're not bending anything. They're just, they don't want to put everything on a person at one time and too overwhelming. So you tell a person, well, a little bit, maybe keep Shabbos Friday night. At least maybe the Shabbos in the day. You can be not bending halacha, just you get him to do more than he did before. So I don't know what the person means by how much they bend halacha for them. Whatever you get them to do, a little bit more is worth it. Some people have the idea it's either everything or nothing.
But I guess the question is to misrepresent the halacha to make it easier for them.
Well, you're not allowed to misrepresent halacha. If you tell a person, you're supposed to keep Shabbos, but I don't expect you to keep Shabbos all of a sudden. You haven't kept it till now. The goal and the ultimate goal of Shabbos is to keep everything. But in the meantime, I can't expect it to keep everything so all of a sudden. So at least keep a little bit. We don't tell them, well, it's okay to do this on Shabbos. If we're not allowed to do it, you can't misrepresent Torah. You have to tell them. You have to tell them everything, but you can't tell them something that's false. You have to tell them what it is, and sympathize with them, that they give them a chance to get better and better. But you can't tell them anything false about the Torah.
Rabbi, tonight's Rav Moshe Feinstein's yard site, and the Rav was very close to him. Can the Rav share a personal story about Rav Moshe Feinstein, maybe?
You should have told me from before to choose out something real good. Yeah, a personal story. Well, my favorite, very short story, in the one Shavuos, Hallel Shavuos, he came to our home to spend some time on the Shavuos with us, and then actually all the boys from the yeshiva came over to the house also, and I said the story recently. Oh, I said it, I guess, in Lakewood. So my oldest son at that time was a baby, and he was in the playpen. Playpen. Oh, excuse me. Today you don't play pens anymore. It's not good for kids. Poor mothers used to get playpens. Were so good. Older generation playpens, right? Used to have, right? Yeah. Today no playpens anymore. It'll come back in the style. You'll see. Pretty soon it'll come back again. It'll come back. So everybody was singing and happy, and he started to cry. He was crying. He's a little baby. I know I was crying. So nobody paid too much attention. My wife was in the kitchen, serving and taking care. And so Moshe turned around. For him, it's Yom Tov. It's Yom Tov for him too. He's a little baby. He's Yom Tov. It's a holiday for him. You can't let him cry. Pick him up. Don't let him cry. So here we have this great rabbi with everything on his mind, the whole Torah and the whole Jewish nation on his mind. And he has so many things to think about and to worry about and to do about, but he was interested in the little baby also. It wasn't too above his greatness to be concerned about somebody else's baby crying, because they say a story that he was walking through in the hotel in the country. They were there in the summertime, and he was walking towards the dining room. And he came, but all the women were inside eating, and they left the carriages outside the dining room for the babies. And one of them seemed to wake up and start crying, and all the kids, the baby, he walked through, So he went, started checking all the carriages. People, where is he? What happened? Where is he? We're looking for him. He came out and saw he's trying to rock all the babies. He got them to stop crying. So he's joking around. If you need a babysitter, ask Rabbi Mintz. He's a great babysitter. Yeah. So some things come to mind. That's pretty good. No, it's not bad.
Okay, any more questions in the room? Okay, we'll go for one final question online. Is the world to come discussed in the Torah? And if it's not, why not?
Is what?
Is the world to come discussed in the Torah? And if not, why not?
Well, the world to come in the prophets is discussed very openly, many times. In the 5 books, it's not talked about openly. It's talked about in the remez, hinting to it, but not openly, the future of the world to come. And of course, that the question is asked, why not? But the plain, simple reason is because the Torah is not to tell us about the world to come. The Torah is here to tell us what we're supposed to do in this world, how we're supposed to act in the laws of the Torah. We know that there's such a thing exists because we have the oral law tells us about the world to come, and but the Torah was not written for that purpose. It's not a history book to just a history. Everything in the Torah is very relevant, and it's telling us how we're supposed to live in this world. The world to come is not the Torah's job to talk about the world to come. It's talking about this world, how we're supposed to live, the commandments of the Torah, and the greatness of the Jewish people, of the patriarchs, of the matriarchs, and that's the main purpose of the Torah. What's going to happen in the future is something that we know from Sinai, and we know from the our great ancestors who studied it and heard it from God and heard it Mount Sinai, but that's not the purpose of the Torah to tell us about the future. It tells us about the present, how we're supposed to live and how we're supposed to serve God. That's plain simple reason why.
Okay, that's it. Just want to remind everybody, tonight's the deadline to sign up to make reservations for the Oorah Gala Purim Festival celebration in Lakewood. Oorah.org/Purim.
Hope to see you all there.